Hi, it's Toby Gad, host of the Songs You Know podcast. We've launched the first 6 episodes already and they've been a huge success. Thank you so much for your support on the podcast already. I thought it would be fun to compile the best stories behind 5 chart-topping hits in one video. Let me know in the comments which story is your favorite. So I want to know the story of You Raise Me Up. How did, from when you first, did you write the song?
I did not write the song.
Who wrote it?
It was Brendan Graham and Rolf Loveland wrote that song. And it was originally recorded by a band artist called Secret Garden.
Oh, it was recorded before?
It was, once. So since then, of course, it's been covered a million times. It's become like a modern
Has it
classic.
been released too before?
It was, yeah.
Wow.
So
I applaud any record company who releases a song that has been released before, because that's always the stigma. Like, don't hold it back until you have your big artist covering it.
Absolutely. So, but we didn't know it was going to be the big song. So, I was in Dublin, Ireland. Secret Garden was an Irish, artist, and I heard that song in the back of a taxi cab in London while I was promoting my first album.
Yeah,
and just thought this is just one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard. I was just like, I was kind of buzzed from like a few Guinnesses out with the record label.
Was it very different from how you interpreted it?
Yes, David Foster, I would say, the Secret Garden version is beautiful. It's much more subtle, I would say. It's much more kind of hymnal. And David did his David thing to it. He really made it the kind of power anthem that it is. And he added the choir. He added that giant, key change that he does.
Massive in the end.
I would say that as amazing as the Secret Garden version was, David was the one who kind of crafted the template that became the cover for everyone else. Yeah. And so we were recording my second album, Closer, and a publisher came in and said, "Hey, I've got this song. It's out of Ireland. I thought it would be nice for Josh." I'm like, that's my taxi cab song. I remember that song. We stopped what we were doing. We recorded it. We knew it was a beautiful song, but me and radio, you never know. And there was no drive at that point to find like a top 40 single or anything like that. And so it wasn't the immediate choice by anybody. We had a lot of songs that were poppier and things like that. But, we had a great team at the label, and they said, we want to give this song a shot. And then I owe it to some amazing radio programmers who just did like one-time plays of it, because I'd come in and they'd say, while we're here, we're going to play your song. Yeah. And expecting it would be a one-time play.
And then they were in tears and they said, I want to cry again to this. Yeah.
People were calling in. I'm pulling over on the side of the road and bawling my eyes out. I think about my friend, my parent, my teacher. I think about, and so the response to it was so organic. This was, the antithesis of all the kind of like pay for play, radio strategy, and you got to hit this and that. This was just people were calling in crying.
Incredible.
And the programmers were like, well, we should play it again. And then we should play it again. And then they would add it to their rotation. And that just happened all across the country. And it was a really cool thing to hear.
Incredible. And do you have some memories of like the best performances or the most memorable performances where you played the song, sang the song?
The most poignant for me was at the Super Bowl in I forgot what year it was. I'm really bad with dates, but I did the Super Bowl. I think it was like in 2005, 2004 maybe, and 2005 maybe, and they were doing a tribute to the astronauts that passed away in the Columbia disaster, and they had a really lovely large choir behind me, and they asked me to sing that song before the game, and that was probably like one of the largest stages I got to sing that song, and it was great. But when you have a song that's been that powerful in people's lives and that has been part of everybody's soundtrack, you're always amazed at where you get to sing it and where you get to travel around, and whether it's at the White House or in Hyde Park or there's just, it never gets old when you have a song like that connects with people on that level.
How did you meet David Foster?
I met David Foster through a voice teacher I was working with in LA. I'm an LA kid. I grew up in LA. My parents are not showbiz parents. My mom's an art teacher. My dad's in executive recruiting, if you know what that is. And I was a Boy Scout. And as part of the Boy Scouts, I got asked to go to the house of a friend of mine who was also a Boy Scout, who was giving voice lessons to some of the scouts. His name was Seth Riggs, big famous voice teacher in LA. And he was like, "Oh, you got a really lovely voice, and at some point, he says, you're a neighborhood kid. I'll give you a discount. Come over every couple of weeks and I'll give you a discount. He was really kind to give me discounts. David Foster called him at one point and said, I'm in a real jam. I'm doing a concert for the new governor of California, and Michael Crawford from Phantom of the Opera had just backed out. Mm-hmm. Who have you got who's young, who's free, who will come and sing a song from Phantom? Yeah. And Seth said, hey, this guy David Foster called. I'm going, okay. I didn't know who he was at that point because I'd never read the liner notes.
How old were you then?
16.
Whoa.
And he said, I'm going to have a few of my students send him tapes, and who knows, maybe he'll pick yours. And he did. He picked my tape, and I went and I sang at that thing, and that's how I met him. It was a couple of years after that we actually started working together.
Pretty much met on stage.
How the Fred song happened was I made this record. I made this kind of EP, and a song on it was called Lost Keys, and I made the EP with Fred's brother, Benji, who's amazing. And I remember so well, I was out at a club feeling really anxious. And the next day we went into the studio and I just wrote this song about, like, pull me out, like I don't want to be here anymore.
It's so honest, the song, and it's like more honest than a lot of artists would admit to be. And I think that's what touches us listening to the song.
Thank you. I think so. I think it was born out of such a kind of real place.
Yeah.
And it was just a piano vocal song. And then I released it, and
do you want to play how it sounded before you sent it out?
Yeah.
I'd love to hear that.
Just like a piano.
You want to sing it too?
Oh, okay. Eyes on the ceiling, chasing a feeling. I'm only drinking water now. Dance like I need it, sweat like I'm bleeding. I've lost myself in a crowd. The music's getting faster, they're all going harder, but you know how to calm me down. Touch me, talk to me. Pull me out of this place. Pretty lights, lost keys. Do you know what you're doing to me? I can't remember the words, but I want to tell you everything. Touch me, heartbeats. Do you know what you're doing to me?
It's beautiful. I always get goosebumps at the touch me part.
Oh, thank you.
It's really nice.
No, it was this thing. I wrote it just like that and released it essentially just like a kind of piano vocal song. And then
you had it released already?
Yeah, it was out. And then Fred messaged me about a year into it being out.
Oh, wow.
And he was like, I love this song. Can I make my own version of it?
Yeah.
And honestly, at the time, he wasn't who he is now in terms of his kind of so I was kind of like, because we were friends, I was like, yeah, do whatever you want to do, like of course. And then he ended up making this kind of incredible, chopping the touch me, and somehow keeping what I think is so amazing about what Fred does is he kept it feels like you're listening to a piece of dance music, but it also feels like you're listening to a ballad.
Yeah, like it feels very intimate too.
All at once.
He just grabs the essence and repeats it infinitely. And I like how he also visually portrays the artists who sing.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Like with a glitching loop, but it's so cool.
Yeah. It's really clever.
Did he call you one day on Zoom and said, sing it, and then he used that, or?
Well, I'll tell you, he really misled me, which is probably for the best. He's
what
like,
happened?
yeah, just. So he kind of did it, and then he played his Boiler Room set, and I remember that the way he kind of A&Rs his project is that it's through audience, like, you know, if he'll tease stuff, and then if people love it, it will become a single.
It's very smart.
Really clever. And he did this Boiler Room set, and it went so viral. And Pull Me Out of This from that set was like, everybody seemed to love it. And so suddenly it was this thing of like, okay, we're going to release this and push this song. And I had no idea. He texted me and he was like, can you just send me a really casual video of you like just singing the song? And I'm like, yeah. And I remember I just got out of the shower and I was in my bathroom and I didn't. And then the next thing I know, it's on every biggest stage ever for years.
Yeah. But it feels personal, it feels intimate, and that's what makes this resonate, I feel.
Yeah, and I'm also, because in the video, I think I'm singing the song, so you can kind of, it all feels very real.
It's also, I mean, speaks for the journey that songs sometimes have. You had it already released, and then someone picks it up. Like sometimes I feel if we release songs, we're planting seeds, and then sometimes it takes years and years for them to grow. Or look at Kate Bush with Running Up the Hill, or Natasha Bedingfield, Unwritten, like decades after these songs explode again. It's incredible.
This is the thing, and it's like, and that's also why I always tell people, I'm like, don't judge or rethink how good the song is or the impact it's had on people once it's out, because you don't. It could be in 25 years. You don't know. Could be
the biggest song ever in a few years. Yeah.
And that's why just like release music that you love, that you know is wonderful, and just
also independently nowadays everyone can release music and just put it out there and see if it resonates, and if it does, let it have its own journey. That's great.
There's much more to lose by not letting people hear it.
You know what happened with Take That? I work with and I love those guys, and Howard and Gary and Mark and Jason when Jason was there, and obviously Robbie, and but I did a few records with them, and at some point when Robbie came back, they wanted to try something different.
Yeah.
And I was actually a fan of the guy they picked, so I understood it, but I could have closed the door, but Gary and we're still friends, and I worked on some of his solo record, and we've done other things together, written songs for other artists together, and so it's always key to leave the door open. You know?
No, you're good at that.
Oh God.
Wait.
So I think with Patience, with Take That, we were working on another song. I think it's capoed actually, but...
Do you want a capo?
Here.
Yeah.
I'd have to hear the original, but I think the idea was... I think it's here. This is a tired capo.
Aye.
Something like that. And I was sitting there talking to Gary, and I was just like, and we were literally, I was behind the glass, and he was in the control room, but we were talking to each other over the talkback, and I was just kind of just playing something like this. And he goes, what is that? And I'm like, I said, you know, one of those songs that, it was kind of one of those chorus like that, and he's like, well, come in here. And my recollection is that I think I said, hold on, I'm coming, just be patient. And then he said, play the, oh, it's such a bummer. This is, and just have a little patience. And then I started playing that, and I was like, what is that? He goes, no, just keep going. And he had the first line, just have a little patience. And then we were like, oh God, where do we go? I'm still hurting from a love I've lost. I'm feeling your frustration, but any minute now, we were both kind of, oops, sorry.
It's okay.
I guess it's mine now. So, but when we started, it's a phonics thing, need time. My heart is still, hitting, but while I'm still healing, just try to have a little patience.
Yeah.
I'm still hurting from a love I lost. Okay, that's the opening line. My heart is numb, has no feeling. And while I'm still healing, just try to have a little patience. Which is, I always love songs where the title becomes the first word of the second verse.
Oh.
So try to have a little patience.
And then
continue on in the second verse.
That's really cool.
And the verse and the chorus are the same chords, and the only difference is the pre-chorus, which is we try to keep it really simple. But the irony of that song, or the funny thing about that song, is so we got the first verse and chorus, and we started the second verse, and I was like, I gotta go to the back. So from the time we came up with, started playing that opening lick, to the time I ran back into the control room, we wrote the first verse and chorus. And by that point, I was like, I gotta go to the bathroom. I ran to the bathroom, and in the bathroom, I'm like, that's good, just try. And then when I came back and Howard and Gary were in there, and they were like, check this out. And then they had like the last 2 or 3 lines of the second verse. I was like, yeah, thanks.
It's so funny.
I'm going to go get a sandwich. I'll come back.
When the song's conceived, there's this urgency of it must come out. It must, and it finds all these bits and pieces.
But I thought at the time, so we stopped working, of course, on the epic song Butterfly or something we thought was, and I went out and I think I'm Logic. I just put down this little beat. I went out, I played the acoustic, maybe doubled it, played a bass, and then Gary went out and played piano, and then he sang it like 3 times.
Nice.
And he's such a great singer that he just, we basically had it. And then we did some harmonies with he and Howard, and that was it. We stopped. Nice. We were like, okay, we'll go back to the other song, what we thought was the hit. And then they left. They went back to London, and I made it a record. I just sat there, and when I started finishing overdubbing guitars and synths and put real drums on it and redid the bass and really dialed it in and kind of tightened everything, I called Gary. I was like, I don't know, man. This thing is great. I think this is way better than that other song. And I sent it to him, and he just called me back, and he was like, mate, and he walked into Lucian's office and David Joseph and Colin Barlow and they were like, that's the first single. If you can beat it, good luck. Yeah. But we've got this. And all the other Mark. And then at the end of and Shine was at the end of the record. We needed one more song, and that's where that song came about. Okay.
Amazing.
So that's my little Patience story.
Great.
Which is when we won a Brit Song of the Year. So there.
There, I very luckily got hired to produce OneRepublic's. They were called Republic at the time, but they had to change their name. Their debut album. They had great songs on it, like Stop and Stare, an amazing song called Mercy. And they had this phenomenal song called Apologize. We were a few weeks in to the album. They would very quietly, not Ryan, but the other guys would kind of come up to me and sort of whisper in the hallway, that song, Apologize, we don't really want to do that And I would say, why?
Why? It's too pop.
They just said it doesn't sound like us. It sounds... See, Ryan Tedder apprenticed with Timbaland, the producer, for 2 years.
Wow.
That was a contest that he won on MTV when he was much younger than that. Something about entering a boy band. I think Lance Bass was also one of the judges on the panel. Maybe there was an NSYNC connection. Ryan won the thing, not surprisingly, and Timbaland, the producer, was one of the judges on that panel. And I think it was like you get to spend a week in the studio with Timbaland.
And that
it wound up being
2 years.
2 years.
That's amazing.
So he just lived on the bus with him, watched all those Missy Elliott records get produced, and everything Tim was doing, like in the height of his genius. I mean, he's still like an insane. I think he's one of the best record makers ever. I can't believe what he does. So he's very influenced, especially in Ryan's early days. He was very, very, very influenced by the creative footprint of Timbaland. How could you not be, especially if you're with him for that long? So Apologize had a Timbaland vibe, and the guys were like, we're a rock band from Colorado, it just doesn't sound like and I said, well, I understand that, but it's kind of partly my job. Let's just see what happens. If it's terrible, no one's ever going to hear it, I'll never let it leave my little studio. Nope, we don't want to do it. And then at one point I was sitting with Ryan in the control room of this other studio where I was for a long time, and the band they came in and they blocked the doorway, and there was like mutiny on the Bounty, and they just said, okay, we're having a band meeting, and the topic of the meeting is we're not doing Apologize.
Oh wow. And you fought for it.
And I was just like, what? And poor Ryan, I'm sure he felt so conflicted. He's very dear friends with all these guys. They're all still in the band together. And I just kept saying the same thing, like, we have to try it. It's a great song. I get what you're saying. You're right. It doesn't sound like the other songs, but let's see what would happen. And they just felt so strong. So anyway, we all went home. Again, I had no juice as a record producer, right? I had no cash. I had no perceived power. I had no real, other than Beautiful Soul, which did well, but I was one of several producers. I came in at the end to kind of tweak it, and I mixed it. I didn't have any like big trophy on the wall saying Greg is a successful producer, because I wasn't. But I felt so strongly about that song, having no clue it was going to be a hit. I just thought this is one of the best songs on the record.
Wow.
I called Ryan. I said, we have to do this song, and the only thing I can think of is I think I got to call the band and say, guys, don't come in for the next couple of days. And I don't want them to be angry. But you get one shot at making this debut.
Sabotage their cars. Slice the tires, something. So
I didn't know what to do. I mean, they pulled a big move.
It's the funny thing about a hit song. Like, I've been there many times where even Beyonce played me Single Ladies before it came out. And when you hear a hit song, and it's not a hit yet, but there is the song makes everyone nervous, and everyone thinks like, oh my God, is this genius or is it too obvious? Because it feels so instant. And I think there's always this fear that this is too obvious. This is too like.
That's amazing what you said. It makes everyone nervous. That's really amazing. You're right, because it does make you. It sets off all these like, I don't know. There's no word for it.
People start fighting over this song. They start debating it. Some say this can't be, and others, that's that we have to have it.
And nobody knows what a hit is going to be. If anybody ever tells you, I know a hit when I hear it, I know this is going to be a hit, I know this won't be a hit, you should run to the hills. Nobody knows. The real
hits sound like nothing out there because they are game changers, and they do something that isn't there yet. And that's the scary thing. Like, it's something completely different, but everyone has a very strong reaction. And I think the one thing that hits have in common, that they make everybody feel something, and whatever it is they feel, but it's like everyone feels something. And a lot of other songs, some people feel something, others don't, and
that's really
live
beautifully
without
put.
it.
That's beautifully put. I mean, that is what great writing does, right? It does elicit a reaction. Even if it makes you, even if you're like, I hate that, it's still, that's a strong reaction. So anyway, Ryan said he listened to my little spiel, and I meant it. And he said, okay, I agree with you, but let me be the one to call the guys.
Nice.
I said, okay, that is better. Let me know what happens. And he called me a couple hours later. He said, all right, I'll see you tomorrow.
Great.
So we showed up and we did it. And to the guys' credit, they came in a couple days later and they heard it, and they were kind of like, it was a really awkward, weird vibe. And one of the guys who was kind of leading the pack of the finger wagging, he said, can I add something to this? Can I put my instrument on
please?
it? Like, do you mind if I'm like, yeah, go ahead. And then, the drummer wanted to try something. So it kind of became, and then we made the album and then they got dropped.
Oh no.
Yeah, Tim Devine was the head of West Coast A&R in Columbia.
He dropped them?
No.
No.
No. He quit because he didn't like the new guy that came in as president.
Wow.
And he said, I refuse to answer to this person. The guy was an interesting guy. He only lasted 10 months in the job.
Wow.
But Tim, who's a storied A&R guy from Aerosmith to Katy Perry, Tim's the reason I know Katy.
Yeah, and I read that your very first song you released was with Aerosmith.
That's right.
That's insane. And your second song you ever released as a writer was with Celine Dion.
Also correct.
You knew Adele when the world didn't know her, before anyone knew who Adele was, right? What was she like?
Firstly, I was really lucky to work with her. I just found out the other day, sometimes you think you understand something or you know what the story is. Anyway, it turns out that the reason I worked with Adele was because Jonathan Dickens, her manager, and Lizzie, my manager, walked in the same park. So they're walking there and Lizzie's hearing about...
It was meant to
be. Total luck, exactly. Anyway, Lizzie's finding out from third party people about this girl Adele. Yeah. And he goes, Jonathan, I hear you got this girl Adele. Anyway, somehow she sweet talks Jonathan. And Jonathan says, yeah, like she doesn't write with professional songwriters. Are you joking? No, high moral ground, go away. Yeah, no way. Anyway, it turns out that Adele at that point had some kind of sentimental streak. And somehow the idea got up that she would work with me.
So how was it like that day when you wrote Chasing Pavements?
In a way, it was what happened a few days before that I think is more pivotal, which was, I heard her demos. Yeah. And Daydreamer was on there and Hometown was on there. And it's like, obviously, this is the most amazing music and lyrically so strange and sweet.
Yeah,
and
what a
unusual.
beautiful album, yeah.
Beautiful. So, it was like, of course, it's a yes.
How did it happen?
Well, then she came in and I was pretending to be cooler than I am. And we were kind of thinking The Cure and we're doing something that's kind of up tempo. And it's good and it sounds really good. And she's got a verse. And and then there's time to make the next thing, to make the chorus. And it's like, it's obvious. I've all the cards are still in my hand. It's on one chord only. Yeah. It's like, you go up a fourth, bam, that's it, we're in. Anyway, I do it and it's super boring. And then I tried a little bit more exciting and it's super boring. And then it's the end of the day and she comes back next morning and the same thing happens. It's like, okay, this is how we get the chorus going. And again, it's boring. She goes, you know what, Egg, I think we might have to kill this one. I think we might have to move on and try something else. At which point I panic. Oh no. Completely. You knew you were onto something and it's so good. It's so good. The verse is so good. Anyway, I freak out and I do every desperate thing you can do on a keyboard. Yeah. Just super resonance. That thing on a Juno where you take the resonance up so much and it's just ugly, ugly, ugly. And I go from doing tasteful, clever, just like a little move here, a little move there, to desperate things. Yeah. And suddenly it's alive. And she goes, right, got the chorus. Yeah. Anyway, that song was called Tired. And that went on the record. And then it was a week later that she came in and said, right, you write slushy love songs, don't you?
Slushy love songs.
Yeah, it's like, that's what you do. I go, yeah, that's kind of what I do. She goes, right, let's do one. And then I don't know what happened. Then I played some really boring chords. They're really stock, whatever. Let's pretend it's in B minor. I play B minor. Anyway, whatever. The chords in the verse are really dull. And I'm kind of sweating because I know that she's hyper intelligent. That thing that you get where I think she was 17, possibly 18. And that feeling that you get when you're in a room with people and you just know that they are running rings around you. I'm not saying I'm stupid, but I could just, occasionally she'd say something. She'd just say something and I'd go, oh God, at 18? Are you joking? You're right. But the feeling I had was she was super intelligent. Yeah. Anyway, we start, I play these chords, they're really dull. She goes quiet. 5 minutes later, she starts singing a melody, but it's just somehow so composed and so far from anything that I would have written or that I could see coming. That thing that people say about genius is, that intelligence is where you hit the target other people can't hit, and genius is where you hit a target no one else can see. Anyway, it was one of those moments where and it's so basic. When she sings it, it's just one note, but it's the composure and that, but thing that she does at the end of the line in the verse, whereby it just turns it hinges it. And she just had taken these 4 super boring chords and had changed them so much. And then after that, it's just a blur. The two of us, it was just very fun. Amazing. You know that thing where you're playing and you're just both of you kicking it down the road, kick the can down the road. You do something, she does something. It's so much better than you think. You go, I'm going to match you. You match her. She comes back with something better. And it was just, for an hour, maybe it was just kick, 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 kick.
Can you sing the chorus?
Yeah, I can.
Sing it.
Should I give up or should I just keep chasing pavements, even though it leads nowhere? Would it be a whatever it's called if I can't remember the words? But you see, typically, I remember kind of, so if you're writing a song and you've got a should I give up, and you've got it, and you go, okay, we have the first line of a chorus. Or should I just keep chasing pavements, even if it leads nowhere? And you go again, should I give up? She goes, no, we don't repeat. And I go, are you fucking insane? Of course you repeat. Of course you repeat. Of course you repeat. And she goes, no, you don't repeat. Should I, even if I knew my place, could I leave it there? And then you repeat, should I give up? But it's all asymmetrical. The whole point is, so at this point I'm pretending like, I'm doing my best to be clever. It's like no 8-bar phrases, 6 bars, or, like a little tuck in here, there, or everywhere. But then she does things that challenge my nerve. And I think we had a possible thing and you just killed it. And then of course she proves it. Anyway, this happened again and again and again. Little things whereby I think I understand the form. And then she goes, no, we can break the form here. So we played that. And now, anyway, basically thing after thing happened that I didn't see coming that was out of format. And then it's like 4 PM. It's time for her to sing it. And she's sitting down and it's really good. I really like it. It's obviously really good. And she sings it once, sitting down without, just in small voice. I don't know, what do you call it? Head voice? Is it called head voice?
Yeah, head voice.
In head voice. She sings it in head voice. And frankly, it's terrible. Just because there's nothing there. I should find it. God, that would be so evil to play the original take. Anyway, basically, she sings it. And I suddenly realized I'm the only one who's been singing it really hard in the room. And I say, and I've probably got fear all over my face. I say, no.
I know that feeling.
Yeah, we have something here, No, you have
remember when we liked it?
Well, even, remember when you get that, remember when we liked it, then you actually, I never come back from that. Often I find, have you ever had a remember when we liked it that actually turned into something great? I think if you get that, remember when you liked it, you're in deep trouble.
I think so.
I rarely come back from that.
But this one you knew,
moment.
right?
This one I totally knew. I totally knew. And it felt so good to sing it. Anyway, and then to her eternal credit, she goes, I don't really sing hard. That isn't what I do. And then I remember her pushing the chair back and standing up and kind of lifting the mic up. And then she sang, then the next 2 takes with the record.
Wow.